Am I the asshole for giving my husband a notice to quit? Hello Reddit. I, 33F, have been married to my husband, 32M, for 3 years. I apologize for the long post. When I met him, he was suffering from a back injury. Around 2 weeks after we met, the back injury became worse, and he went on unemployment. For roughly 6 months I drove to see him since he was unable to drive. I was fortunate to have a job with a flexible schedule that allowed me to make my own hours. His doctors told him he would need intensive physical therapy. Since one of the best therapists in our area is about 5 minutes from my house that I own. I offered my spare room, charged him rent, and drove him to his therapy appointments 3 times a week for the next 6 months. He was able to return to work, but held jobs for short periods of time before his back would flare up or he would find out the job wasn't for him. I continued to support the household as the partner making more. While I continued to charge him rent, I paid for food, trips, car expenses, and often his phone bill. Since I had helped him with his resume early on, I knew that he had a strong work history before the back injury. I wanted him to be able to get back on his feet. He has missed rent twice before this incident. This summer we planned a trip to the beach with his family. I had visited this beach many times as a child. I offered to pay for the vacation when he said he couldn't afford it. I very much wanted to go and would have got a hotel if I went solo, but he paid part of the deposit. We went. To put it in context, I spent roughly $2,500 on the vacation and he spent $1,200. We drove the 10 hours using my car. He expressed concerns about not being able to afford it leading up to the trip. I continued to offer to pay. He continued to turn it down. Upon returning from the trip, he failed to pay rent and let me know 2 weeks after it was due. He demanded an apology from me for not respecting his no, which caused the financial strain and the argument became heated. He then demanded that we ignore each other for 2 weeks. I have a tendency to try to talk things out and he wants space. I said I would like him to stay somewhere else for that time. I said I couldn't force him to leave, but I can't leave since I have pets and other tenants. I have stayed at my mom's for a day or 2 in the past. He explained that he wouldn't leave no matter what without police and can't pay rent for the next few months. I sent him a notice to quit and offered to reimburse the $1,200. So, am I the asshole? Edit. I am trying hard to answer all the questions. Thank you everyone for your judgment so far. Just to add some info. I make $400 a week. He makes about $500. He does not want to share a room and has stayed in the spare room since he moved in. Edit 2. I am answering as many as I can that contain questions. Thank you all so much for helping me and sharing your stories. Edit 3. Thank you all. My responses might slow down because I am very tired, but you all gave me such incredible insight and perspective. I can't say thank you enough. I can always do better, and no matter how this turns out I'll remember all the kind words and straightforward "you are the assholes." The fact that you took the time to respond is kind no matter what the content was. Final edit. I will keep answering questions, but just to put a few things up here. I am not AI. I am ND. I didn't put it in the previous post, but I grew up very poor. I worked in warehouses, third shift, for 10 years to afford my house. I couldn't get a day job in my field because my parents became very sick after I graduated. I went to college on scholarship and worked several jobs. I know I have a hair trigger around money, which is why I asked if I'd been too harsh or emotional in my reaction. This has been a point of contention and you're welcome to not believe me. I do love him. I didn't want to be emotional in my post, and being ND makes it hard to express them. You have been married for 3 years but you don't sleep in the same room and you charge him rent? This does not sound like you are married at all. I think in this situation it's probably everyone sucks here, because he seems like he isn't working to be able to contribute to the household, but at the same time you made him go on a vacation that he said he could not afford and then got upset when he didn't have enough left over to pay rent. Now you're going to evict your husband? This situation is so bizarre and feels like there are too many details missing. He's either your tenant or your husband. You both may need a third party to help you to figure which one it is. I'm confused. You have been married for 3 years and he pays you rent to live in a different room in your house to you, and now you want to evict him cause you forced him into a financial situation cause you wanted a holiday? So very confused. Shouldn't you share a room and share the costs of a mortgage and a home as husband and wife? You wanted a holiday, he couldn't afford it, and you essentially forced him to participate anyway. You seem to spend a lot of time comparing expenses. That's not a healthy way to manage a marriage. Seems like he works enough to pay rent, so I don't know why you're keeping score. Info. If the situations were reversed, do you think your husband would do for you what you did for him? Drive you to therapy 3x a week for months, pay most of your bills, help you with your resume? Offer you free vacations? If you lost your job, would he support you? Not the asshole he can't expect you to leave your own home and he's the one that wants space from you for 2 weeks while saying he's not contributing not only then but for the next few months when he was only put out 1 month for the vacation. Him not contributing towards the household is like you paid for the break, he's still only contributing to one of the two and not both. Because he said he won't leave without the police, it's like he asked for it and so you gave him the legal intervention in a different way. This relationship doesn't seem like it's working, so maybe him moving out is for the best unless you don't have a prenup. Have you consulted a lawyer to safeguard yourself? Am I the asshole for not wanting my future stepson to attend my wedding? I, 30F, am getting married to my fiancé, Alan, 33M, in December. My fiancé was married to Amy, 34F, before me and they had a son together, Jay, 17F. Amy and Alan slept together at a party when they were both 16 and Jay was the product of that. They tried their best to make it work for 5 years but then got divorced as Amy had cheated on Alan. Now coming to the issue, I met my husband when I was 25 and he was 28. That's nearly 6-7 years after his divorce with Amy. But Jay seemed to think of me as the cause of it. Alan and Amy have decided to not tell Jay about the real reason of their divorce until he's legally an adult. Because of that, he seems to believe that if he pushes his father and mother together, they'll get back together. I have nothing against Jay but his actions really hurt me and he's so full of hatred for me. Initially, I tried to be a second mom to him but he didn't like it, nor did Amy, which I understand. So I stopped trying and treated him as a friend instead. But he talks down to me, calls me homewrecker. But last week his friends all messaged me harassing me and asking to send them my of, which I don't have, since I'm a thought and a lot of other explicit things. This has hit the nail in the coffin for my fiancé. My fiancé is furious at Jay and wants to uninvite him from our wedding, so do I, but Amy is against that. She thinks I'm being too sensitive and believes that this is normal teen behavior. I don't know if my dislike for Jay is clouding my decision. So please tell me, am I the asshole? Edit 1. Hey guys, we scheduled a talk with Amy and Jay tomorrow to look over this issue. We'll update tomorrow if all goes well. Thanks for all the advice and insight. Edit 2. Hey, so I'm going to try to make this not too long, but basically me, Amy, Alan and Jay had a sit-down talk just about 30 minutes ago. It wasn't going anywhere until Alan burst out about Amy cheating on him. Amy went hysterical and tried to deny any accusations but eventually agreed. Jay looked so confused. But he surprisingly took it well. No one expected him to, but he did. He seemed so ashamed of himself. Turns out, I was right. Jay didn't believe that I was a homewrecker or anything, he was just jealous and mad that I got with Alan when Alan had money and was rich. Meanwhile, his mom had to go through poverty with his dad and seemed think of me as some gold digger. Even though I also work and earn almost as much as my fiancé. Jay also admitted that Amy had said a lot of messed up stuff about me to him when Alan and I first got together. He apologized for that. He said that he wasn't aware of what his friends had sent to me and agreed that while he may have confided in his friends about what his mom said about me, he never asked them to message me. I've never seen Jay look so remorseful. Amy was fuming throughout this ordeal and screaming at Alan, and Alan kicked her out to have a more peaceful convo with Amy. Alan and Jay both exchanged hugs, and for the first time in 3 years, Jay looked happy. Well, that didn't last for long because after the initial guilt and shock, anger settled in and he immediately moved out of his mom's flat and moved in with us. He'd mad with Alan too for keeping this secret from him, but not at me surprisingly, he actually didn't blame me. So I think we might actually be able to be in a more friendly familial relationship. Thank you to you all and your messages. I guess all I needed to do was communicate. Thanks. This is not normal teen behavior and the parents should talk with him now. How in the world can your partner keep this happening? Telling Jay now at 17 instead of 18 doesn't make a difference in maturity. Not the asshole, but are you sure you want to be with a guy who won't tell his son the truth, resulting to you being treated badly? Not the asshole, his parents need to be honest with him. He's old enough, and since it has been 5 years it makes me wonder why he thinks you're the home wrecker. But he's also a kid and it sounds like the adults in his life are failing him by allowing him to be an ass. Not the asshole. 17 is old enough to understand what's appropriate and what's not. Do not have him at your wedding, he will make sure to ruin it. And Amy can go and have him at her wedding. Why does she have any say in yours? Info. How do you see this relationship working out? Sure. You ban him from the wedding, but after that, are you going to ban him from his dad's house? What happens if the harassment escalates? Do you plan on having kids? What happens if Jay takes his anger out on your kids? Have you all tried family therapy? Am I the asshole for yelling at a gym rat in front of everyone? I, 21 female, have started going to the gym a bit regularly. I recently got off the implant and I'm desperate to lose some weight. I wouldn't say I'm fat. I'm 5 feet 8, so it usually balances out, just a bit chunky in the wrong places. I got a 24 hours membership at a fairly large gym near me and I've been going for about 2 months now. A week ago I went at a RLLY busy time, 6 p.m. Instead of my usual 11 p.m. BCZ, I had to be up early CZ of traveling to an interview. I was doing some lateral pull-downs on the machine and noticed a muscular guy was hovering near me. I could sense him halfway through my set but tried to ignore him. When I'd finished my first one I turned and looked at him, waiting for him to say something. As he stared back CZ, it seemed like he was waiting for the machine himself. I eventually just offered up the seat, saying he could work in if he needed, and he thanked me and sat down. Here's the problem. He wouldn't let me work back in. Once he finished his first set I waited a few minutes thinking maybe he was gonna stand up, but he just went on his phone and then started his second set. On his next break I tapped him on the shoulder and asked if I could work back in again. He pretty much just shrugged me off and ignored me. I was a little irritated, but I again waited for his next set to finish. I thought I'd just ask how many he had to do left, and this man was going to do 10 sets and was only in his third. So after his fourth set I took the screw out the weights and placed it at the weight I needed and then just stood right next to him waiting. He moved the screw back but I took it out again. This went on for a little bit and he was getting visibly annoyed before he stood up and just left without all his stuff. I just shrugged and rest down, but halfway through my set I got a tap on the shoulder and it was one of the workers. He said I needed to leave the machine and stop harassing other members to give it up. I was gobsmacked. I tried to explain the situation but he just kept telling me I needed to get off it and give it back to the man like this was preschool. The gym guy was just stood there smirking and I snapped at him yelling that he really is just some coward for running to a worker BCZ. I wanted the machine back after I allowed him to work in. I berated him on what working in meant and asked if he ever treats any of the male gym goers like this, or does he just like to try and intimidate women BCZ of his fragile masculinity. The gym was silent and everyone was watching by the time I'd finished. I put my headphones in and sat back down fuming. I was half expecting someone to drag me out. Some of the other muscular men came over and apologized for what the guy did, saying that it wasn't proper gym etiquette but that I shouldn't have yelled at him and embarrassed him like that. I think I was justified, but now I feel awkward going back to that gym. Am I the asshole? Edit. I didn't go up to get a worker BCZ. I 1. Was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and 2. Was sure that as soon as I left he would swoop in and sit down and I'd have been at square one waiting again. I also use BCZ and CZ as it's easier to type when I'm typing fast. The lack of capitals is BCZ. I have ADHD and it's so much smoother and easier for me to read without capitals. Don't know why, but it just is. Not the asshole. I've owned 2 gyms. That is not gym etiquette. Doing 10 sets on a machine and sitting on it while someone is waiting is ridiculous. Working in is sharing the equipment. The equipment that you are also paying to use. I would have kicked him out of the gym and fired the employee. So the other gym members admit that what he did was wrong, but then said you shouldn't have done anything about it? Fuck that noise. You are right, he would not have done it to any of them. There's only one asshole here and it wasn't you. Good on you for standing up for yourself. He was the one being an AH. It's possible you went over the top enough to also be an A, but maybe not. Speak your mind. Don't accept having to be uncomfortable just so that other people don't have to be. Hopefully this guy will learn better how to share. Not the asshole. If somebody's parked on a machine I want to use and scrolling on their phone, I'll ask them if they're done using it and I can take over. It prompts them to either start their next set or go away. Not the asshole, and that's why I'm very reluctant to let anyone work in with me. Luckily I'm a dude with a pretty intimidating boyfriend, so people tend to not try to talk to me anyways, lol. But yeah, what usually do if someone is starting or waiting on me, I tell them I have a long way to go, And if they can work in it tell then no because I need to focus. Am I the asshole for insisting that my teenage son spend Saturdays with us? My 41F husband, 43M, and I have a very blended family. I have a 16-year-old son, Brian, with my ex-husband. We divorced when Brian was 5 and have reasonable visitation, meaning we don't have a set schedule for Brian to see his father. My husband has a 6-year-old daughter from his previous marriage, who spends the weekends with us. We also have 2 children together, a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. Due to all our schedules, weekends are really the only days where we can spend time together as a family, which my husband and I believe is important. My husband and I have set aside Saturdays as our family day, where we do various activities, go to the park, see a movie, etc. Each week, the kids take turns choosing the activities we do. Brian always complains about our family days, especially when it's his turn to choose the activity. He doesn't like the fact that he must choose activities that are age appropriate for the other kids. His complaining has gotten worse as he's gotten older. I do agree that the age difference limits the activities he can choose, i.e. we can only see movies with a G or PG rating, but I nonetheless feel that these days are important for bonding as a family. Brian says these days are stupid, and that he'd rather spend time with his friends, go over to his dad's house, or even do homework. School's out for the summer, but during the school year he often complains that these family days, combined with church on Sundays, leaves him very little time to finish his homework, and I've told him that learning how to balance work and leisure is part of life. Today was Brian's day to choose the activity. There was a concert that he wanted to go to with his friends, but I insisted that he spend the day with us. I wasn't comfortable with him going to the concert anyway because it's a metal band and those concerts can get pretty wild, plus he would be home past curfew. We ended up going to the movies. Brian asked if we could at least see Haunted Mansion, since it is a Disney film, however, it wouldn't be appropriate for the other kids as it's PG-13. We ended up seeing Elemental. Brian had his earphones in the entire time, and didn't watch the movie. When we got home, Brian announced that this is the last time he will be joining us for Family Day, and from now on he'll be spending Saturdays with his dad, as he's able to do more activities that are geared toward kids his age, since his dad doesn't have any other kids. He's already spoken to his dad, who has said that he's 100% on board with this, as it will mean that he gets to see Brian more often. While I encourage Brian to spend more time with his father, I still feel like these family days are important, and my husband agrees. The other day my younger son asked me why his brother doesn't like him, which broke my heart. So, am I the asshole? Should I continue to insist that Brian continue to participate in our family days? You are the asshole. You're treating your son like he's 6, not 16. And your comment is so over the top. You really told him he needs to learn how to balance work and leisure when his downtime consists of playing games with the family or whatever excursion you plan and going to church. You are something special. Not in a good way. You are the asshole. He's 16, let him do age-appropriate activities. In a couple of years he will be an adult and if you're not careful he'll just go no contact. You are effectively using his whole weekend with family days that are totally age-inappropriate for him and then church on Sundays. Surely church would be considered a family activity if you are all attending. Apologize to your son, maybe talk to him about activities you can do just with him. Maybe you can grow a relationship with him where he enjoys spending time with you. YTA. He even told you he doesn't have time to finish homework when he's with you. Glad he's staying at his dad's. Your other son asking why his older brother doesn't like him sounds like you trash talk your older son to your other kids or they overhead something. Yes, absolutely. You are the asshole. He's 16, not 6.